Um, there are so many things that I've been meaning to want to talk about. But I've been recording another video off since the tarot one from like a few days ago because I'm scared that I'm gonna sound completely incoherent and I'm gonna jump from topic to topic and it's just no one's gonna be able to follow what the hell I'm saying. But I'm like, what's the point of me doing this if not to just be like that? So if you're wanting something to just listen to in the background, feel free to stay. I have a scarf that I have been crocheting since December. For reasons, there are actual reasons for that. It's not just me procrastinating, I promise. But certain things, the things that I would like to talk about, we'll see if I will stay on track and like actually remember to talk about them. But some things include, and if I don't get to certain things, I can always just record a different video. But I want to talk about priority would be my my blog on Tumblr and what that is going to look like going forward. What I would like to do with it, maybe some things that might relate to my activity and my presence on it. There's a lot of stuff under that umbrella, if I'm being honest. But what else? I was thinking about silence earlier, and then yesterday I was thinking about choice. Forgive the pause. For anyone who doesn't know my living situation currently, and this is actually a perfect segue into something that I want to talk about. But currently I live in my home city with my parents, and I had done so for like, without being too specific, just some medical emergency sort of stuff, but that sort of stuff has run its course. Sounds bad, but everything is fine now, and my dogs are out here, but now it's not really necessary for me to be home anymore, and so I have been thinking about what it is that I want to do going forward, especially considering currently my brother is trying to get into graduate school, and so I didn't have any particular goals, or not necessarily goals, but I didn't have any particular plans about where I would be like going physically, and so I was perfectly fine with just going wherever he ended up going, and living with him. But with the current state of affairs, it's brought up the very real possibility that he won't get into any of the schools that he applied to, in which case he's told me his plan B, and that would just be to stay here, maybe not necessarily with our parents, but at the very least here in our home city, which I don't, to be honest, particularly want to continue living here, or at least I don't see myself living here either in the long term or even just for the rest of my life. I really don't want to stay here. As far as where I will go or where I would go to that extent, I have yet to figure that out. But it has opened up the question of, again, where is it that I want to go? Or what it is that I want to do, because I don't want to stay here for the foreseeable future. And that has sparked my interest in wanting to go to graduate school, particularly abroad. And there are only a few people who know this, and I don't mind making this public now because I'm considering other options, more logistically realistic options. But I am working on an application for the University of Limerick's creative writing masters in Limerick, Ireland. And that is, of course, one option. Granted, I, of course, have not finished my application yet. I have not put in my application yet. And so I don't know if I would even be, or if I, oh my god, I don't know if I would be accepted or not just yet, of course. And then there's the issue of whether if/when, whichever one is applicable, I apply for a student visa to go over there. There's also that possibility that I could get denied. And it's not to say that, like, I'm, what's the word? Trying to put myself down in any sort of way. I am not trying to push down any sort of, like, desire to go there. I'm just trying to think about, like, that possibility that might end up happening. In other words, I'm just trying to cover all of my bases. And truthfully, again, I don't think it would be logistically possible for me to even do the program for how much the tuition would be in and of itself. On top of that, there are issues, well, not issues, but there's the question of my housing. Thankfully, my remote job I can still do abroad. So that could at the very least cover my food expenses. If I look like I'm shivering, it kind of is because I am. It's still quite cold here. It is still November. No, it's still February. It's like, I want to say it's like 50. It's in the high 50s right now, I'm pretty sure. I don't have my watch to tell me what the temperature is, and I think if I try to look on my phone right now, it's going to pause the recording, so I'm not going to do that. So it's like in the high 50s. Did I say late 50s? I meant high 50s, with a slight breeze, so it feels lower than that. I am sort of sitting in the sun. It is somewhat overcast though, so it's not helping very much. But logistically, going to Ireland, even for the duration of, or given the duration of that program, it's just a bit, I sort of ask myself whether it's worth it. I would be like halfway across the world, in a very inconvenient time zone for my friends and I, because we played Dungeons and Dragons on Saturday nights. Saturday nights PST, and our DM is in the Philippines, working on their own master's programs. Everyone I know is either doing one or has done one or is trying to do one. And a few of us are on the East Coast, and so that's it's just, it would not be convenient if I were to go to Ireland, even just for the short duration of the program. There's just a lot of questions, open or unanswered, or okay. There's a lot of loose ends when it comes to answering the question of Ireland. Not like the question of its existence or anything, but the question of me going. And so, of course, I'm back at the question of, well, where do I want to go? And I have to take into account what it is that I want to do in terms of like my future going forward, right? Not just where I want to live, but what do I want to be doing with my life? And oh gosh, I'm cold. And as plenty of people have seen, I've over the past year, over the course of 2024, I've sort of really fallen in love with poetry and literature, and particularly contemporary poetry, and oddly enough, somewhat classical literature, which has prompted me to want to pick back up the dream that I had as a kid of becoming a writer. Granted, that actually the order of events is a little bit inaccurate to what I just said. Oh god. If I try to explain everything from the very beginning, it's going to be very long-winded and full of details that I don't know if I'm ready to talk about publicly yet. But in the year that I moved back home, which was in 2023, that was when I decided actually that I wanted to be a writer. At the time, I was set on writing fiction, actually, because I used to write fan fiction, and I love, well, it's not because I used to write fan fiction only. I have always really enjoyed storytelling, and through my college years, I really how do I phrase this? Oh my goodness. My brain is just on next levels of not working. Throughout college, I continued to write, but it wasn't at the extent or level that I was writing in like high school, which was when I was primarily writing fan fiction. But through college, I was primarily considering like my own original stories and my own characters. I was developing them, but for a lot of other reasons, it wasn't a priority of mine at the time, and I sort of pushed writing to the side. The wind is very cold. But But I like being outside is the issue. I can't wait till it starts warming up so then I can sit outside more, and God, yeah, I just can't wait. Anyways, writing through college was never really a priority. I was thinking mostly about like what it was that I was going to be doing after college, and I was thinking about careers, and I was thinking about admittedly what it was that would not only make me feel fulfilled but also fulfill my parents in a lot of ways. And so when I was making my decisions, writing and pursuing writing just was something that I ended up dismissing. And lo and behold, I go into the field that I, thought would be it. And I, in the middle of it, realize this is just not for me. And so I come back home in the summer of 2023, and through the second half of that year, I fall back in love with writing, and I decide for myself that that is what I want to be doing. That is what I'm going to be doing. I partook in NaNoWriMo in that year. In, I guess, is pursuance a word? I feel like I should know. If it's not a word, I'm making it a word. In pursuance of that dream of, being a writer. I didn't do the 50,000 words. I think I managed to only do 25, which in and of itself is absolutely insane. Because I don't think I had ever written that much in that short of a time. I think ever. But not only that, it also proved to me that because initially because at the point that I decided I wanted to do NaNoWriMo actually was either in the second or third week of that month, and I reasonably knew that I wouldn't be able to hit 50K in the time that I had left of NaNoWriMo. And so I think I actually set the goal of 25,000, and I did end up meeting that goal, I think. I have to go back and look at my draft to really confirm that, but it through doing it, it sort of proved to me that, like, one, I really like writing. Two, I don't just love getting the words down. I also love the imaginationness. Oh my god, I can't pull words out of my ass right now. I like the exercise of imagination through it. I've always been the type to daydream, so I feel like that's no surprise that that's a part of writing that I really enjoy. But I feel like at the time I just hadn't done it for so long that through NaNoWriMo that year, I sort of fell back in love with it. Granted, I did end up burning myself out the month after. But that was also the time, around the time where I actually started writing poetry and started falling in love with that because of, particularly actually because of Sleep Token. But yes, now I'm here a little over a year later, and I am in a place where like I cannot live my life without poetry. I can't live my life without literature. And I think that what has really made me fall in love with these things, and what has kept me from burning myself out of these things, is the human aspect of it all. Now I really need to think about my words carefully here, because there is a lot of emotion behind why I love poetry and why I enjoy primarily reading nonfiction, but also fiction. I mean, it just, I guess, depends on my mood which I pick up, but poetry in particular. I don't know, I guess it's because it feels like I'm connecting with the author through seeing glimpses into their person through their words, if that makes sense. I feel like that doesn't make any sense. Is there a better way that I can phrase that? I can't think of anything. I guess at the root of it, it's for me, poetry is evidence of living, and so to read it, I feel like to read others' poetry is to read evidence of their life. And I think what I really like about that is how it's just a reminder that like I'm not the only person alive. I know that sounds weird, but there is just a very strong disconnect that I feel personally, between myself and other people, and myself and the rest of the world, if that makes sense. I feel like if I were to try to explain that in more detail, I would just go on a very, very long tangent, and I feel like it deserves a video in and of itself, because I think that it relates, or it has a lot to do with like my neurodivergence. But I could go on to talk about just how it feels for me in a different video. But I feel like through poetry, it plugs me back into the rest of the world. It plugs me back into or rather, I think a better way to explain it would be to say that poetry is a reminder of humanity for me. Yeah, I feel like that's a really great way to put it. I have already forgotten why I started talking about this. Oh, yes. And so that's the reason why I like poetry and why I haven't sort of burned myself out of it, although I am admittedly in a bit of a poetry reading slump right now. So I'm just trying to indulge in some of my other hobbies and stuff and other pieces of media, just so I'm not like, just, you know, rotate these things out, so I don't lose the, I don't want to say novelty, but the enjoyment or the amount of dopamine that I get from these activities. And so it has me considering a career in anything that has to do with poetry. And of course, other than trying to just be a published poet, it has me now thinking about going into the industry of publishing. And one thing that that sparked this thought was actually on my old blog. I was also running a side blog where I would reblog. Do you ever just get insecure about the amount of times you say and anyways, I ran a blog, a poetry reblog blog. And the one thing that I really liked about doing that was, of course, being able to read just other people's work that I maybe would not have been exposed to before. I also liked the curating aspect of it. But yes, I was like, okay, that is a thing, right? There are things like literary magazines and the like. But yes, literary magazines that publish poets. And there are big names that run those magazines, and then there are independent houses that run them. And the literary world is just sort of littered with them, as far as I have seen. And so that means that is a thing that people do. That is a viable way of living, and that is a way of living that I would like to live. So I have been seriously considering going back to school for another undergraduate degree in particularly creative, not, oh my god, an English, I would be getting an English degree, but it would be like a writing specialization. And that, of course, is going to be expensive. But I think it would give me good footing for trying to get to where I want to go. And that in and of itself, just like thinking about it now, brings with it its own set of fears because, you know, it, of course, introduces, or rather, my brain is introducing doubt into the question now. And I feel like those are questions that I don't yet have an answer to. Things that I still have yet to overcome that I don't really want to talk about publicly just yet, because there's a lot of this stuff is at the early stages in my head, and I still have quite a lot of time before the application deadline for the semester that I would want to enroll into. And yeah, lots of thinking to do, lots of needing to reach out to people about my options and stuff. But and plus lots of needing to finish my application still. But one thing at a time, one step at a time. So, is there anything else? I didn't even talk about my current blog and how the future will look for that. So the reason why I kind of mention what it is that I'm thinking about doing with my future is because it's going to affect that blog in particular, and that blog is important to me. I know it's just a Tumblr blog, but that's the place where I go to post poetry. So, and there are people on there that I hold very dear, and that is, I guess, our primary method of communication, and I like to see what people are writing on there. But this might eventually have me posting less poetry on there. Maybe. I don't know, because I'm thinking about putting in submissions again for literary magazines. Especially now that I'm using Twitter a little bit more often now, and I'm seeing all of these magazines opening their submissions up, and I'm like, I could. But I don't think that I am going to continue being on there, or being very present on there. Honestly, probably until the end of this year. I feel like that's when I think about what it is that I'm going to be needing to do, and when certain deadlines are, I feel like that's a reasonable thing to say, that I probably won't be super present, or rather it might stay the way it is now through maybe November, but I guess we'll see. Knowing me, this is more me saying all of that stuff is more of a hopeful prediction and less of an intention. But yeah, I'm thinking about like the fragments parts or the snippets, and right now as the queue is, it's set to actually run out March 1st. Granted, I could fill it back up with just reblogs of snippets I've already posted, but I don't know yet if by that time I will have, you know, added more to it in terms of like new readings and stuff, but just been in a slight reading slump lately, so we'll see if I add to it later in the month. But yes, as far as the queue will go, I think I will, if I get new things in there, I think I'll up the frequency by maybe like another post or something. I don't know. We'll see. Or I might just, I don't know, I could set the queue up so that they post within like all within a particular hour. I just don't know when like the best hour would be. I don't know. I think I might actually do that. I might set it for sometime like 6 in the morning my time, which is PST. I think I'm glad the sun's coming out now. Is that it? I think that might be it. We'll see. I guess in the meantime, I will just keep working on what it is that I need to be working on. There is another video that I wanted to make on the power of choice, which is actually what I want the topic of my personal statement to be for my grad school application. I just need to get it written. So that is probably something that I could definitely work on this week while I'm waiting for feedback from one of my friends. So I do have an announcement for my blog at some point soon. Maybe within a month, maybe. We'll see. Anyways.